In this video, we're going to be building a realistic, ultra detailed and beautiful enclosure for our reptile. That's right, welcome to this video. My name is Adamup, and we start where we are always going to start when I build anything in Planet Zoo, and that is the main viewing area. You can see I've used these plaster walls, a little bit of a wood trim on them, and I'm going to create a glass viewing area for this one. Got a little sign off the workshop there as well, and added a little bar just to keep the guest away from the glass. You can see this is going to be a detailed build, adding these decals to the floor and planters in and around the actual enclosure. All that's left to do now for this viewing area is add the glass barrier. We're going to be trapping water between the glass barrier and the terrain, so obviously we're going to need a glass barrier, and I'm just going to put that through this custom made barrier what I've made, obviously. So I'm just going to put that through, and then that's going to be our main viewing area. We're going to have two viewing areas. We're going to have an outdoor viewing area, what's not to do with water, but this is going to be an underwater viewing area, and the key for it is just trapping water in between a glass barrier and terrain. But you'll see me do it as I go along. I've got a full tutorial on it. You probably already know how to do it anyway. What I do want to say while you see me struggling to put this glass barrier in this custom made fence is that thank you. If you're watching this video right now, thank you very much. We've just hit 30,000 subscribers. That's right. Honestly, even saying that blows my mind and sounds a bit odd. 30,000 subscribers. Never did I think the channel would become something that it is now. So thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for all the feedback. Talking about feedback, if you are liking this video so far and you're excited to see out the end result, please hit that like button and subscribe if you're new around here. To add on to that 30,000, you might as well if you're not done already. Once the glass barrier was added, like I said I would do, trap that water in between the glass barrier and the terrain that I've already heightened using the terrain stamp tool. And we're going to recolor it kind of like a murky color water. You can see we're just playing about with some of the options. We're kind of like a murky evergreen color. That's the kind of thing that you would see in a reptile house, reptile habitat. So that's what I was I wanted to be authentic. I want to be high detailed, realistic and authentic in this build. The best I can do anyway. Now let's make a custom wall, shall we? We're starting off with the plaster piece, recolor it to this like kind of brown. And we're going to use the Indonesian wood pieces because they stain, they look more authentic, look more real, kind of like the wood is wearing off, while the paint of the wood is wearing off, and you can see the wood underneath. You can see what I mean as the wall comes together. Add a little trim, we'll extend it onto the top. And we're going to put like a little trim on the top as well. With these mesh pieces, kind of like a metal wire frame at the top. Why? I don't know. It just looks good, so I went with it, okay? Sorry. So you can see we're just putting everything in. Once you've got one piece, you've got them all. Because they're on the grid plaster pieces, we can just easily duplicate them over. And of course, we're going to throw some facilities in there as well. Why? Because we can. And then just to show you here, this is how you go about creating a door frame. Now, obviously, we've created the walls on the grid plaster pieces, but they're full. We now need to create a wall with a hole in it, which is a door frame. So we need to use the shorter pieces, and we can just select them all together, make sure they're level with the pieces on the other side, and then we can easily just move them on over to this side, and we just fill in those gaps, what are caused by the door frames. And then we can actually add a proper door frame, like a wooden door frame, to fill in more gaps. And that's what it's all about with custom builds like this, custom buildings, custom walls, just filling in the gaps and making everything look nice, neat and tidy. Once all the walls were in place, it was time to go onto the roof, but just in the background you can see where I've got some off the grid plaster pieces, and I've put them on angle, creating a ramp, a nice little slope into the water for our reptiles. They need to be able to access the water, don't they? And this is going to go back down to ground level as well. Look, I'll zoom out to show you. So that is the little platform I created. It's going to go down to ground level to give access to the water for the underground viewing area for our guests. That was a long sentence and a mouthful. That was like a tongue twister. Anyway, I'm just trying here to now deselect everything what I've just selected, because I'm going to create a custom roof. You see me create a custom fence, you see me create custom walls, and now I'm going to create a custom roof. I did say that this was going to be a really detailed build, didn't I? So let's not leave anything undetailed, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to put these down. So basically what I've done here is I've got an on the grid plaster piece, so I can easily duplicate everything over. On the top I've got an actual plaster piece, and then at the bottom I've got a plaster piece, and then in between I'm going to put some metal bars. Now I'm just trying to think of different designs to create flat roofs here. I've created many flat roofs in builds in Planet Zoo, so I wanted to try a little bit something different. And you can see how it's really coming along now with the wood on the bottom, we've got the plaster on the top, and then in between we've got that metal piece where you can just see me putting around here like this. Kind of give it different like height and depth variations within a roof. And then the outside viewing area on the other side, this is going to be a ground level viewing area. There's going to be no water involved in this one basically. And we're going to create kind of like a little sloped wall, which you can see I've already put in using the same plaster pieces. I wanted to make sure all the colours match. They're quite dull colours really, but they kind of look realistic. So there is the dark grey, kind of looks like concrete, same colour as the roof. And we're going to go with that colour for the walls of the outside bit. And we're just going to close these off. I'm going to leave a little gap there so they can come down the ramp, the reptiles, from the water into this bit as well. So it's all accessible and it gives more space. You can see me getting some of Caesar Creates workshop items here. I really recommend these rock walls. They are amazing. And obviously a lot of people think they're amazing. They've got a lot of downloads on the Steam Workshop. I'm sure you've seen them, but I use them a lot. So big credit to Caesar Creates there. Once that backdrop was in place, it was time to add some more rock work, of course. You see a lot of rock work in reptile habitats, so I wanted to implement this in this reptile habitat. And we're going to use the 4 rocks. I'm going to recolor them so they look the same color as the rock face in the background, and we're just going to add them quite randomly. It's got to look as natural as possible really, hasn't it? So I'm going to add them on the base of the actual rock face and add a lot of foliage, and this is how it can look combined with those rock faces from Caesar Creates and a little bit of added stuff. You can see I've added foliage in the actual water area as well. These are just some simple underwater plants in between the 4 rocks. On the right we've got a little planter, and yeah, everything just blends really naturally. I'm loving the colour scheme and the realism in this build so far. Hit that like button if you're loving it too. Next up, I started to create my own little fence. Now I'm going to put this on top of a plaster piece just to give a little bit more security and a little more actual like zoo-ish. Zoo-ish, is that a word? Make it look more like a zoo habitat, if that makes sense. These are going to stop our crocs getting out, and it's going to stop people from throwing rubbish and stuff or whatever they want to throw inside of a habitat. But that's the idea anyway. Like I said, and we're going really realistic with this. But yeah, this is the fence I made, and I was actually really happy with it considering how simple it was. It was just some of the wire, so it's obviously a wire fence. We've got some metal pieces there. Kind of looks like an electrical fence, doesn't it? Don't know how safe that is to have that around water. But I mean, it looks good. I'm just going to put that on the plaster pieces. I'm going to line it up and put it all around the outside of this reptile enclosure. And then what happened? Actually, I want to know your opinion about this, if you think this was a good idea or not. Let me know in the comment section down below. I turned this rock face around a little bit, and I deleted some of the trees, and I'm just going to add a little water feature. But I'm honestly unsure if this looks good or not, so you'll see the end result in a second. Let me know in the comment section below if you think this was a good idea, adding this little water feature, but it's going to go down into the actual body of water for the reptiles, which you can see me just finishing off here, making sure everything looks like it should work and as natural as possible. Yeah, let me know in the comment section below, was this a good change or was it a bad? I'm still actually unsure about it. And then, yeah, you probably recognize this from earlier on. I do this a lot, this is not just in my video, I do this when I'm building stuff. I'll jump from section to section. If I can't think of how I want a certain section to look, or a certain wall or anything like that, a certain gate, I'll jump to something else and I'll come back to it later on. And that's what I've done here. So I'm sorry if it's not in like order of like build order, but yeah, this is the order I build it in. It's just the way my brain works. So what I'm doing here is adding a mesh fence, because it's going to be the backstage area this for our zookeepers and our vets, because our facilities are there, remember, inside there. So we're going to have a little feeding station here, poking through the gate, which you'll see soon. We're creating that realism by creating a little fence, so it looks like it can give access at least to feed for our zookeepers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bang some more mesh and just cover this whole area with mesh. And then for terrain, I'm going to put a bang a load of sand and dirt in there as well for our reptiles, and have a bit of extra land for them to traverse in. I'm going to have a private section as well, so I'm going to build an extra external building to the rear of this enclosure to give them a little bit more privacy. These are just the support beams, but I wanted to show them because they look good, basically. I'm just going to add these support beams. And then I'm going to add a little custom roof as well. I wanted a little bit of shelter at the back here, just in case it was to rain. Again, always thinking about realism aspects here with this build. I'm going to add these lovely kind of like rustic metal, congregated metal pieces as well. The rustic ones, they look torn away. They go well with the Indonesian wood pieces because they look quite rustic and worn. It just works really well together, and really happy how it ended up looking. Adding those support beams. This is a custom roof basically is what I'm trying to say. Custom slanted roof. Just anchoring over. Going to give a little bit of shelter for our reptiles when they are outside at ground level anyway. Well, let me just show you how all the little bits of details come together in the end. You can see I've got a little like sign there. We're going to add that roof what we've just been building, and then at the side the support beams are there. I did a little trellis as well on the side here just to give a little bit more look, and at the bottom we've got some moss decals. Look like the leaves have fallen and kind of like rotten away a little bit. Front we've got stuff like fallen leaves and moss on the roof, and we've got a little custom gate as well. On the left, we've created this kind of like closure and this wall, and we added a little planter to create that as well. Just so it just spruces up this wall a little bit, doesn't it? Instead of just having a flat wall, we've got a planter to close off the rest of the habitat. And then I'm going to start building this little private backstage area for our animals as well. And that is where we're going to put our zoo enclosure gate. Obviously, we're going to use no barriers for this, but to quite simply build this private area, I'm going to use one of the walls, what we've used previously, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to delete the top part. I'm just going to delete this end part so it's lower down, and it's kind of like a little shack for our reptiles. And because we've already got the walls, it was simple once again just to put everything together using that on the grid system of custom wall building that I've shown you previously, and I've got many tutorials on building and stuff. See how it's coming together quite quickly and nicely. Bang a roof in there, and that is where our habitat gate will be, where our no barriers will start, and where the entrance for the enclosure will be. I'm going to use the same congregated roof pieces that we've used on that little other bit on this little shack as well. I'm just going to line them up, make sure nothing is like going through each other or anything like that. Make sure everything is looking good. You can see me just zooming in and zooming out. I do that a lot in my builds just to see how everything is coming together and looking as a whole. And then I'm going to grab that piece we originally deleted to make this shack and put it back on here just to give it a little bit of height variance in roofs. That's what I like to do as well, especially if I've got multi buildings like this. This is 2 buildings, isn't it? So I want a little bit height variant of wall length, let's put it that way. So we can just delete these. I'm just going to have a simple flat roof, again making sure nothing is digging into each other, because it was like kind of digging into that fence, wasn't it? I want to align that to the best I can, make it a little bit smaller as well. And when you're using off the grid plaster pieces like that, it's quite easy to alter the roof. It's a bit harder when you're doing on the grid plaster pieces, not on the grid plaster piece, sorry, on the grid roof pieces like I have done there. Much easier to build a custom roof in my opinion these days, especially when you're working at different heights and different lengths. I added some more support beams here, as again trying to keep it realistic, and then I needed to delete this, and I need to go and grab that door frame from what we previously built and then bang it on here, and that pretty much completes that. Time to put the habitat gate in, isn't it? And in the end, it looked a little something like this. You can see we've had some foliage to the planters, and everything is now joined together with the walls. I think this gives a really good fluent look. That little extra compartment that I built has now got bedding in there. I put a little fake habitat door on the outside of here, but if we just go inside, you can see where the real habitat door is as well, and adding those little bit of details once again with this water station. As for barriers, we can go ahead and put them in now before we get our animals in. Well, obviously before we get our animals in. And these we're going to use the no barriers. I'm just going to basically go all around the outside of where the animals can traverse, well, where we want them to traverse anyway. So just all around our custom made barriers like this. Just following it lounge. You don't have to be this neat when you're putting your null barriers in. I'm just a little bit neat myself, so I like to do it neat. we'll come out here like this, bring it down, and then we're going to come in like that. And then we're nearly there now, aren't we? We'll bring that one in, and then we're just going to join it on this side as close and including as everything as possible, like so. If it lets me, there we go, just like that. Now if you actually click on the gate, it shows you it's a full enclosed habitat, and remember, your animals will not escape because we created our own barriers. Our reptile habitat is now complete, so let's take a look at it in its whole entirety. I'm really happy how this viewing area did come out looking in the end, especially with our reptiles in. And here they are. Currently we have got 2 dwarf caimans in there, and they have access to the entirety of the enclosure as well. They can traverse from this pool at the top down to the bottom to ground level. And I am really happy how the ground level came out looking as well, with this external viewing area to the rear of the enclosure. Remember, we cornered off this area with a lovely little planter. See those plants in, and then we've got that private backstage area where our habitat gate is located for the animal access. We currently have a sneaky, cheeky little dwarf caiman walking up the platform as well. They just can't stay away from that water. This is kind of how the habitat formed at the end from a top-down look. So with our habitat complete and with our reptiles in, that concludes the end of this video and the end of this build. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you got some inspiration for how I build stuff. If you did, please hit that like button if you're new around here. Please subscribe if you want to see more Planet Zoo related content. But with that being said, my name is Adam. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next Planet Zoo video.